We're going to be talking throughout this program with an expert. He is a psychologist as well as a minister. He's pastored for over 30 years and talked to thousands of people, literally, about these principles with John Cafourek. Hi, John.
Well, hi, Howard.
Thank you for coming again. What is the reason why trust is the foundation of satisfying a need for a child?
Trust is actually the cornerstone, the pillar. It's the beginning of the foundation. The situation can get very desperate if a child cannot trust their parent to perform the various functions that a parent should perform.
What sort of things does a child begin to do if they learn that they can't trust their parent?
Well, if they learn that they can't trust their parent, they become or try to become dependent upon themselves. They'll do as much as they can, and a lot of chaos will result from that because a child is not an adult and is not prepared to make a lot of the tough decisions. They oftentimes will begin to rely upon the influence of other adults, and that may not be a good influence either, because they do need influence. They need a proper influence and trust to place in that example that they're looking to.
If the parent is present, what goes on that builds a foundation for everything else that a kid needs to be given?
The first thing is that there's a bonding, and that should start already. This might surprise people, but during the time of the pregnancy, the bonding really begins that early, and the child begins to recognize the voice of mother, and if father is present, the voice of father while in the uterus or in the womb. So there's a special proper bonding that needs to take place so very early on. There's physical touch that's part of that as well. And some experiments have been performed that have been tragic in the results, that when children were deliberately not allowed to be touched, parents were not allowed to have physical touch with them, the child just began to shrivel up, as it were, just draw within itself, because there's a thriving that is supposed to come and naturally results from the proper kind of touch.
Wasn't there an experiment in Romania after World War II that established that if kids don't get any feeling, any of that bonding, they can die?
They actually get sick and they die because the mental, emotional condition persists until the physical health problems set in, and they just literally die.
So the trust that is built by the bonding can be also broken, though, can it? Pretty easily if you start to make promises to children and on a consistent basis don't fulfill those promises. You mentioned an extreme case.
Yes.
But I've found that if my kids are expecting me to take them to an event that I've promised and I get busy and they don't get to that event, that's huge in their world.
That's huge. They'll just say, but you promised. And that illustrates how important it is to them. It's like, how can you do this? I mean, I banked on this. I'm depending on this. I can't believe that you wouldn't carry out your promise. It's something that's not always huge to an adult, because we can make excuses and say, well, I'll make it up to them. Well, we can try, but it's best not to disappoint them there because of the kind of damage that can really produce.
Where the parents are present and they're loving and so forth. In many, many cases, parents break that bond of trust, don't they, because of the unfulfilled promises or the commitment levels, right. And then the children are disappointed and then develop some kind of mechanisms to go their own way.
Absolutely. And they will respond to the immaturity emotionally of their parents and become very immature themselves.
What's the relationship between children's thoughts, their thinking ability, and their feelings?
Yeah. Well, feelings come first. Thoughts are more complex, take a bit longer, and usually we associate with that some of the formation of words and concepts and those things, but the feelings are there immediately. I had a case just not too long ago where parents in the childbirth of their little baby daughter found out that the daughter had a case of infection in the lungs. It was born as what they call a blue baby, and so the parents were not able to touch it at all. Right upon birth, the baby had to be hooked up with an apparatus for respirator for breathing, given oxygen, rushed to the hospital, put in an intensive care unit. What happened was amazing, is that the parents were only allowed the first day to come in for limited amounts of time. But every time that the parents came in and were talking just to themselves, and of course they talked some to the baby as well, the baby's breathing dramatically improved. And the baby became more restful and at peace, less agitated. And the hospital folks were just amazed. It happened just like clockwork. When the parents would leave, when the hospital people said, your time is up, you have to leave, they went out of the intensive care room, and the baby began to be labored in its breathing. And this happened for the entire day, time after time. And I think it illustrates, just how vitally important that is. There was a child who could not understand the words, but identified with their voices and with the sound of the comfort and the nurture in their voices.
What's wrong with assuming that once the child is in school, whether elementary and then furthermore in middle and then high school, that the school is going to do most of the job from there on? What's the problem with that?
Well, one of the major problems is that trust requires a solid, firm, and healthy bond. And if we want our children to bond with the school, regardless of what kind of influence it dishes out, it's not going to be a good bond overall. And it's going to cause a lot of conflicting in the child as far as what's right, what's wrong, what's permissible, what isn't permissible. It's a bewildering experience if the child is pointed in the direction of the school to establish a bond with it, now that it's no longer at home all day with one or both parents.
Do a lot of people actually give the public school system, in their own minds, the lead responsibility of taking care of the child mentally and emotionally, go to school, keep the rules, and then come home? You're expected to be a little adult, take care of yourself. We'll give you the video game. We'll give you what we need to materially, but the school's going to take care of the emotional part. Do a lot of people really do that?
Far too many do, and for a number of reasons. They get too overcommitted, they're stressed from their jobs, they're seeking a lot of time for recreation themselves. They feel that this is an easy solution. They think that the school is more qualified, to handle certain things than the parent. And, if it's teaching a specific subject, geography or something like that, that may be the case. But if it's teaching that child how to respond, how to behave, what's right and what's wrong, and rewarding good behavior and all those things, it's a big mistake.
If you're interested in knowing more about the 6 basic needs of children, because we have a great article on the website, tomorrowonline.org, you can download, that have covered these 6 basic needs. Just go there and you'll be able to watch this television program as well as many others and get a lot of information. Also, ask for your free subscription to the Good News magazine, which deals with topics like this all the time. You'll see an ad for that. Also, do ask for the free booklets that you'll see there on a variety